Hello. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Gabriella Page. I'm 15. I like to write. I'm trying to get into producing, learning how to produce. This program is really cool for that purpose. I like to write, draw, everything. I'm very open to learning and everything. And then Takaya is going to introduce herself really quick.
Hi, my name is Takaya Mabin. I'm from Detroit. I'm 16. I'm a senior in high school. I write, act, produce. I'm a singer, just a regular writer. I think I said that. I'm sorry. I'm a writer. I play a lot of instruments. And, I'm just very talented. And Gabby?
Okay, there we go. Now I can see everybody. So I'm going to introduce them. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Talk with the Detroit Film Kids. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to Sean William Cunningham. Writer, producer, actor, and... Sorry, I'm going to start all over. My bad. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Talk with the Detroit Film Kids. And today we have the pleasure of speaking to Sean William Cunningham, writer, producer, and actor. He has probably worked on a plethora of your favorite shows, such as Julie and the Phantom, which is really popular on Netflix. I personally Sharita, she watched it all. I'm in the middle of it, so no spoilers, please. Please. Pair of Kings, Night Squad, The Thundermans, and so many more. You've worked on so much. I think that's amazing. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I would like to wish you a belated happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How old did you turn?
43.
Oh, okay. You don't look a day over 35.
I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Much nicer than my kids. They don't say nice things like that.
They don't. Oh my goodness. I'm cracking up. Okay. So, questions. I got questions for you.
Perfect.
I know everybody starts from somewhere, has a place where they came from. I want to know personally for you, when did you start writing and producing, and how did you know that is what you wanted to pursue as a career?
Great question. So for me, it started way back in like 3rd or 4th grade. I have a brother who's a skateboarder, and all the kids in the neighborhood got skateboards, and I got one too. I left mine out in our little front yard, and it got stolen. So if I wanted to continue hanging out with, my parents would not buy me another one. If I wanted to continue hanging out with them, I had to find something to do. So we actually had like an old camcorder. This is like the late 80s, early 90s. We had like the camcorder to record my sister's dance recitals. So I just grabbed that and started filming my friends who would skateboard all the time, and then just sort of fell in love with that aspect of it. And then also, just as things progressed, like throughout school, if there was an option to do a video project, because I had that little bit of experience, I would always jump at that chance. And I started to find that I was basically like an average student, like a B minus C. If I'd be happy with a C plus. But when we would do these video projects, I'd be with some of the smartest kids in school, and suddenly I'm like, what are they? When they would suggest things, I'd be like, no, that's not how this works. Camera's got to be over here. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I think through that process, I found I had a little bit of a knack for this thing. And then, once you find something, like all of you young people that are into film and writing and all that stuff, once you find something like that you're good at, then you just got to jump onto it, So I started to really, even though I grew up in Connecticut and New York on the East Coast, and I didn't know anybody in Hollywood at all. But I still started to understand, hey, maybe this is something I could be good at. And so I just really started to focus on that as possibly being a career one day, even though that sounded absolutely crazy to me. And anybody I talked to. I mean, if you told any of my friends back then, if I told them I wanted to be involved in Hollywood stuff, they would all just completely think I was ridiculous. But lo and behold, I found this to be the one thing I was like really good at. So I started to read every book I could get. If I could get my hand on a screenplay, I would read a screenplay. Now it's so easy. You can go Google any screenplay pretty much, and you can download it. back then you had to go into Manhattan and there would be like a guy set up with a table with a bunch of screenplays for sale for $10. So I grabbed a couple that way. But basically just started reading everything I could get my hands on. I started watching more stuff and said, this is going to be the thing I follow. And then slowly got better and better. You know, your first films, they're going to be, you might think they're good at the time. And then you look back them years later, they're pretty bad, but you just keep failing forward. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually here. I'm doing it for a living, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you found out what you were good at and you really perfected your craft and worked on it.
Yeah. And still to this day, I feel like you should always be a student. So I have a few books that I constantly, like between seasons on shows, I still read them, and I'm still trying to, if I find a movie that I love or a TV show that I love, I'll download the screenplay, I'll still read it. You always have to be learning. And then obviously the stuff that you guys are growing up with all the different, you know, TikTok and everything that I'm not even going to go close to at my age. That'd be weird. But all these different things, I'm trying to learn and see what's the next step, where are things heading. You know, I've been a part of network TV and cable TV and seen it move to Netflix and seen it move to streamers. And that's been a very interesting process, but you always have to stay a student because things are constantly changing and evolving.
Amazing. My next question for you is, has COVID-19 affected any of the projects that you are currently working on now?
Oh, yeah.
Or projects you have in the future? And what has changed for you during this time? Because I know it's hard. It's hard. We're basically changing our way of life, the way we go to school, the way we interact with people outside of our homes. And it's kind of taking the toll on people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a big problem, obviously, as I'm sure it's been in your lives as well. We had a Nickelodeon pilot, actually, that a friend of ours wrote that they brought I have a writing partner, Mark Dworkin, who we always work together. They brought us onto that show to be what's called the showrunner. So you're just in charge of basically all the major decisions on the show and sort of head writers on the show as well. Since we had experience on doing that on the Thundermans and a Night Squad, and the writer of this show had not had that executive producer experience yet, so oftentimes they'll pair people together like that. So we had that going, and it was slated to shoot, I believe, in like late April, and then it just got pushed. And it's still pushed. We're waiting for things to be safe. And it's one thing to shoot TV during COVID, but it's another thing when you're working with kids, you know, and that show is about a family. So there's a lot of kids in the cast. So it's another layer of, we just have to be super cautious and make sure it's all very safe before we get back to it. And then also Julie and the Phantoms, there has been no announcement of a season 2 yet, but they did have us write some scripts. And so, but the announcement for that won't occur until they know it's safe to shoot that, and they shoot that show up in Vancouver. So, so it's everything basically slowed to a halt, and now it's kind of in the last week or two, some shows have started back up. Some of the Nickelodeon shows started back up this week. Actually, they're shooting probably starting tomorrow. So we're starting to see, it's sort of a little bit of a wait and see. Hopefully it goes well. And I know just from seeing the pictures, my friends Ron and John are running this show called Side Hustle. They're the creators of Liv and Maddie. And they're starting a Nickelodeon show this week. And they sent all these pictures, and everybody's in masks. You know, I think they're limiting how many people are coming in contact with the set and coming in contact with the cast, obviously. So it's definitely a major hurdle, but I see the business is starting to sort of slowly tick back up.
I'm most definitely waiting for season 2 of Julie and the Phantom. One of my favorites, one of my family's favorites also.
Awesome.
It was, so the next question we have, I know you've written so much. I couldn't even read them off in the beginning, all of everything you worked on. What do you do when you experience writer's block? Because it might be hard sometimes, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. So what's interesting about TV, especially being involved with Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows where you get these huge 20, 21 episode orders for a season, it's basically like you're in a machine and you can't have writer's block. It's not an option. You will get fired. So that's the kind of motivation, especially when I have 2 kids that are 12 and 9. And if I get fired, who's going to pay the bills? I don't know. So that's that kind of motivation will take writer's block out as even an option. I think probably what you guys are facing when you think of writer's block is just the motivation to get started on things, which for me still, like, even now, because I do have a little time because of the COVID stuff, there are a couple projects that I'm kicking around in my head, and even I still face that sort of fear of beginning, or just lack of motivation. I mean, you know, it can be a little depressing out there right now. So sometimes it's hard to get motivated to sit down and do work. But over time, you start to, it's like exercise. You start to build a muscle, and you start to realize that if you just put your butt in the seat and start typing, things are going to get done. So my best tip to just get the ball rolling is just to sit down and then just do, some people call them morning pages. I'm not really a morning person, but whenever I feel the need to sit down, I'll just start writing, and I'll get like 2 to 3 pages, just like in Microsoft Word, of just stream of consciousness, which just means you can type anything you want, and there's no wrong answer. And you could just start typing about your, often I'll just start typing about my day, or where I'm at, or what my goals are this week. And mine's like a little bit motivational, or like, you know, that kind of thing. But that's what gets me going. And once I get through to like the second page of typing like that, I feel like my mind's a little bit more straight. And also now I'm writing, I'm the ball's rolling, and then I don't have to face the empty page, and then I can jump into things. The other quick thing is, I'm a big believer in outlining what you do and really figuring out what you are about to write before you sit down to a blank page. So I spend a lot of time, and my writing partner and I spend a lot of time on just really honing down what is the log line of, like, say you're going to write a movie. Can you break it down into 3 sentences that are catchy, and that if you heard that on a commercial or something, you would want to watch that movie? It's an incredibly interesting process to take your idea and all those ideas in your head and try and get them down into those 3 sentences. And what ends up happening is you end up refining what the movie is in your head. So we try to do that. We try to picture the poster and get excited about that. We try to cast the movie in our head, or the TV show in our head, and even like write up little bios and put the picture of that actor that you want to be, you know, in that role, so you can start to visualize it and start to become more real. And it's through that process you start to get going. And once you build momentum, you keep going faster and faster. But just don't believe in writer's block. That's a big part of it. Don't even accept it as a real thing.
Because I know some kids my age, they struggle to get started because they're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't know. I don't even know what to write about. That's the problem.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that 100%. And this is a hard thing to learn how to do, because you're putting yourself out there when you're writing and you're acting. I mean, you listed me as an actor as well. I've only acted when I was forced to act. I'm more behind the camera person, but still, as a writer, I feel like I'm putting myself out there. I have to open up my soul a little bit, my heart a little bit, if I'm going to connect with the audience. So that could be scary, but you have to just go ahead and do it, and give yourself permission to be a little bit vulnerable. Give yourself permission to fail. That's the big thing. It's okay if it's not great, especially with writing. I mean, like, you don't need anybody's permission to start. You all can write your story, and you don't have to show it to anybody until it's ready. You could do, you know, writing is rewriting, they say. So you could just keep honing it and making it better. But if you don't do what sometimes in the writing industry we call a vomit pass, because it's that bad. It's just like vomit all your ideas out, get them onto the page, and then start rewriting it and making it better. But yeah, I understand. I mean, every writer I know that I know in Hollywood struggles with that feeling of being a little bit scared when you start a project. When a show ends, it's the first thought that enters any Hollywood writer's mind is, I'm never going to work again. Those are normal feelings, I think, for a writer or for an artist. So if you're feeling that, I feel like you're in good company. You're off to a good start.
Okay, Gabby, if it's okay with you, I have a question for Mr. Sean.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, you're a writer. So how often do you use like your childhood experiences for scripts?
I feel like it informs basically a lot of everything that you do. You know, it might not be directly, like somebody might not be able to watch the show and see that I did a story about them. But if I'm writing a story like in Julie and the Phantoms, where there's relationships and there's young love and stuff like that, I'm thinking about those feelings that I felt when I was 15, 16 years old, when I had my first girlfriend or a crush or had my heart broken. All those experiences, almost like an actor, you have to connect back with them as a writer to be able to express them in a real way, in a genuine way. So yeah, I think it's a big part of writing. And honestly, a big part of becoming a writer is experiencing life and going out and putting yourself out there in sort of interesting situations that put you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because I don't know if a lot of writers are like me. I mean, I'm a little bit of a hermit. I would prefer to not go out. Sometimes I'm like, the reoccurring thing in my life is I'm dreading going somewhere, and then I go there and I'm having a great time and I love it. So, but yeah, you have to put yourself out there, meet different people, go to restaurants, listen to what the conversation is going on over here, observe people, think about them. And then all those voices and all those things come in. And then I don't know if you guys are note takers. I'm a little bit there, but like if I hear something interesting, I just throw it right in my phone. If somebody says something, if I hear somebody talking, I love watching documentaries because I hear how people, the patterns in speech, and the way people talk, and the way people really talk versus how they talk on TV shows sometimes. So all of those life experiences all get sort of filtered into the work you do. I'm sure do you experience that too with the projects you guys do?
Yes, all the time.
Yes.
Okay, I have a quick question for you. What time, I know you have to leave at 6. What time would you want to stop? You know, just stop.
If 5:45 would be perfect.
Okay, we can work.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
On to the next question. Like I said earlier, you've worked on a ton of everything, basically. What was your favorite episode to write on or write for or produce? Just one episode. I know it's hard.
Well, I do have a favorite. It always surprises people, and I don't know if you guys know the show Pair of Kings, but that show, it was about 2 guys from Chicago, brothers who found out they were kings. And interestingly in that show, we had Doc Shaw and Mitchell Musso, one's black and one's white, and we never really make a big deal about it. They're just brothers, which I always found to be kind of awesome. We did an episode called Pair of Prom Kings for that show, which was like so much fun to write because it was about the kings had been on the island and been kings, and they're kind of idiots, but they're kings. And then they get an invitation to their high school prom. And there's a couple more storylines I won't get into, but basically they're all excited to go back to their prom as kings because they were losers when they were in school before. And then when they get there, everybody still treats them like losers. But then they realize that that they truly are kings, and it's about what's on the inside, not about what these people think about them. But what I loved about writing that, and not only was it just a funny premise, was it was whenever you're creating a TV show, you're trying to come up with cool ideas. And that was one of those ideas that when we stumbled on it, it was like a golden nugget, because it was almost like we get to do a story that's so directly about what the show's about. Here are these guys that were nobodies that became kings, and now we get to throw them back where they came from. It just felt like, oh, that's exciting from a writing standpoint. And then with anything you write, I'm sure you guys experience this, you're hoping that you work with good actors because they elevate the material. And honestly, like you're hoping you work with anybody involved in the TV show or movie because they can elevate the material, whether it's the composer or anything. But when you work with a good, really solid actor, they make what you write better. And I've had that experience on a lot of shows, but with Mitchell and Doc on that show, it was like, oh my God, Doc Shaw could make a straight line that's not supposed to be a joke funny. And we talk about it all the time when we're developing shows. If you have a character that's a little bit unlikable, like in Pair of Kings, the kings were obnoxious, but they're just kind of dumb kids. So because Mitchell and Doc have this charisma, they can pull it off. If you put a different actor in that same part, you might hate them. So that was such a joy to work with young actors that could just take the material to the next level. And we've been lucky that on every show we've worked on, we've had actors that are capable of doing that. So you love seeing that, because also it makes you look good. So everybody wins.
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is the last question, but a very important one. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to future writers and producers and people listening right now, or watching? Because
I would, when I was your age, like the road that I decided to take was basically two roads. So, and I feel one was going to hit or the other one was going to hit. And that was, I'm going to try to do whatever the one road was, I'm going to keep making movies. I'm going to keep making little short films and keep failing forward until they get good enough. And I'm going to keep writing scripts. And I procrastinated on that for a long time. And then finally started writing, and they started to get to be, I hand them to people and they're like, you know what, that was pretty good. And then you learn from your mistakes and you go forward. So there's the creator aspect. And now, I mean, YouTube was just really starting when I was starting. So now that's a whole nother road of creator you guys can take, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, all that other stuff where you're creating your own content. The other road I was taking at the same time was trying to get involved and get my butt like somehow into the system. I found out where movies were shooting in the New York City area, and I just started sending, at the time, like emails and even some letters. Anybody who was shooting anything, I would send an email and say, I will do anything to work on this. If you need somebody to sweep up, I will sweep up. I can make coffee, whatever it is. And I must have sent out 300 of those, and I probably heard back maybe 6 times. But because of those contacts I made, I was able to eventually become the person taking the trash out on a movie set. And then from that, because you work hard and people, you know, like any business, you're going to find it's your relationships that really could carry you forward. So the relationships you're making right now with the people you're making your movies with Detroit Film Kids, believe it or not, you're probably going to end up working with those people more and more as you go forward. Same thing happened when you're production assistant in New York City. A lot of the people I work with, I'm still in touch with. I eventually was like, if I'm going to be at the bottom, I might as well come to LA where things are actually happening. And I managed to get myself into a place where I was making coffee, where managers and literary managers were working. And you wouldn't believe it. I mean, from the group of other assistants there, one writes for Family Guy. One is a high executive at Hulu and now Showtime. Another one has created a reality TV show. These are all people that when we were in our early 20s, you would have never thought, even though we were all very ambitious, you would never realize that, oh my gosh, all these important people are right with me. So the advice there is, I mean, and I genuinely mean this, you all seem like very nice people, be nice to people, because you all are going to have to help each other and lean on each other as you want to make projects. And then hopefully as one of you progresses, they can lift the other person up, and that can keep going and going. And suddenly, you know, I've been in this business for 15 years and I'm still leaning on those people and they're still leaning on me occasionally. And that's, you develop that system. And you talked about the sort of fear of beginning, also fear of beginning your career in this business. Mm-hmm. One thing that I found to be relief was that system of people, and that you don't have to be able to do it all yourself. It's not like that. You know, you see these posters, you see even like Julie and the Phantoms, big shows like that. That's the work of hundreds of people and some key people that are super duper talented. You know, I'm a writer and a producer on that show, but there's Kenny Ortega is doing all of his magic. My bosses, Dan and Dave, created the show and really guide the story. So what's cool about it is this collaborative art of making things. And, you know, some days you're going to be the one who comes up with a great idea, and some days it's going to come from someone else. So it's the advice is be nice with people, work with other people, and learn how to be collaborative and share ideas. And if you don't like an idea and say you're in charge of the project, make sure you deliver the note or disagree with it in a way that's respectful of who you're working with. That's a big part of what I have to do. Because a lot of times I'm head writer, and a lot of times you're getting ideas from all around the table. And I don't want my writers in my writer's room to feel bad about themselves because they pitch something, because then they're not going to pitch the next thing. So when things come up, you just have to learn how to work with people and raise each other up.
Most definitely be persistent. I noticed that when you were speaking, we're talking about being persistent a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then I noticed, so when I was getting ready for this call, I just Googled Detroit Film Kids, and I saw a little video about you guys making your short film and about how the camera got stolen with the footage in it, right?
It most definitely did.
That that kind of blew me away. It kind of blew me away because I said, these are some good people we're dealing with here, because you could have used that as an excuse to not finish that movie.
Yeah.
And anytime you're making a movie or anytime you're creating a project, things are going to go bad like that. That's a real bad thing to have happen. And that must have been really heartbreaking, but somehow you guys picked yourself back up and you finished. And it was great, by the way. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much.
And
Miss Cheatham is, oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Miss Cheatham, like, okay, so how we started was really like Miss Cheatham telling us she makes movies, she knows all these people, and we wanted to see proof. And Miss Cheatham's word was enough proof for me, but you know, it's good to see other people's work so you can actually know. So she told me about some of the projects she worked on. I researched her and everything, and I'm like, okay, this is an honorable woman. So me and my friends, Ronnie Field, she wrote the movie, and she was the director. She we filmed it at Cody, our high school, where this all originated. We filmed it there. Fortunately, the camera guy got robbed and So then Miss Cheatham was like, we are gonna I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, don't be nervous.
Okay. Okay. So she was like, we're gonna get this movie out. People are gonna see your movie. And just that alone, just her putting good energy out, is how we really got the movie done.
Well, I was so impressed by that. And it really shows that you guys are on the right path, because you, just like you need to be persistent, you need to persevere through all of these crazy things that happen when you try to make movies and TV shows. And actually, I've been on TV shows where through error, as they're swapping the drives out from the cameras, things get erased. So like on one of the shows, I won't mention names because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. This gets out there. But we shot a big show on location that we could not go back to, and they lost an entire days worth of footage. So those kinds of things happen. Obviously in Hollywood, it's a little easier because you have to get insurance on your shows, and they pay for things like that, and then you have to go back out there if you can. But what you guys did really impressed me, and yeah, that stuff's gonna happen. It's like a war, going out and making movies and TV shows. Something's gonna go wrong, and you just have to keep pushing forward. And it's not gonna be exactly what you planned in the beginning. There's all these happy accidents along the way that form this thing into something new by the time you're done with it. So good job.
Thank you. I was the lead actor in Why Bully Me.
That was great.
She was one of the bullies.
You were the bully. Yeah. What a mean bully. I really liked that you guys tackled an issue that's obviously important to kids today. That's something we try to do in all the shows that we do. And I really just enjoyed seeing your world and seeing you guys. And when you were saying what advice do you give to young people starting today, it's like, tell your story. And that's what you guys did with that one. And I hope you do more, because it what seems like normal life to you is super interesting to me. Just how if I film my normal day, things that I think are boring, you might find them interesting. So because it was so organic and it was about you guys, it really came through as something very interesting to watch. So I just hope you keep going. And like I said, keep sort of making mistakes and learning on the job. A lot of people, like when I was in film school, we had a lot of professionals. I ended up dropping out of film school because I was facing a senior year where they wanted me to pay $20,000 to shoot a movie and pay tuition. And I was like, I'm just going to go shoot a movie. I'm not going to pay you guys. And we had tons of professionals who came to our classes and were just saying this sort of same thing. It's like, you could learn so much more from just going out and shooting things than you could ever learn from just sitting in the class. So I recommend doing both. You know, you try and learn, try to learn from books, try to learn from watching, when they do like background things on, I guess DVDs or whatever they're on now, where they show you behind the scenes, and more importantly, go out and make your own mistakes and learn from that.
Okay, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Right now, thank you. Thank you, because it's hard. So, and advice really helps when you're trying to get into the flow of things.
Yeah, I understand. Especially now, I feel like with the COVID and everything's going on, it's like I just want to play Xbox right now. But you have to pull yourself up, and as much fun as Xbox is, it's not going to leave you with much at the end of the day, unless you're a professional gamer. So you have to create things, and I don't know how you guys feel, but when I do it and it works, it's like the best feeling in the world, right? When you guys finished that movie, it must have been the greatest feeling. So nothing really tops that, when you can actually put yourself out there and it works well.
Most definitely. Okay, right now, we're going to have a Q&A with the rest of the Detroit Film Kids we have on the call. And then, let me see. Yeah, Derek, do you have any questions for Sean Cunningham?
Yes, I do. So when it comes to writing, what is your process to, like, because me, I like writing in like a book format first, then could bring it over to a script or attempt to. What is your process before you turn to a script?
Good question, Derek. Well, I mean, first off, there is no one way to do it. So if you find that writing it as a book and then adapting it over is the best way for you, that might just be how your process is. Typically in Hollywood, most of the shows I've worked on are sitcoms, and they go through, like I said, it's almost like a machine. You go through this process where you're having to crank out episode after episode. And honestly, sometimes people fall behind, and sometimes that's why some of the shows aren't that good, because the sort of machine catches up with them, and then they're just throwing anything up on TV because they have to get shot, because everything costs money. They have the studios rented, they have the camera equipment, everybody's ready to go. But the typical way that we come up with stuff when we're on one of those shows is we have to work with the network. They're paying for everything, right? So just for an example, I'll use Nickelodeon. We have a couple of people that are called network executives at Nickelodeon that have to approve what we do at each step of the way. And usually they're really cool, smart, creative people who get the show and love the show. But what we would do first is sometimes we would submit like what we call a thumbnail, which is just like a short paragraph about the episode we might write. And the reason why we're submitting that is because we don't want to go through the whole process of breaking the episode and spending like what could take a day or two really coming up with every single plot twist if they don't like that initial idea, but sometimes what we'll do is we know they're going to reject a couple. So we'll send like 5. Here's 5 ideas. Tell us which one you want us to write. And then they tell us which one or two. And then from there, we'll come up with a premise sheet. And with that, we would basically describe the scenes and the major act breaks. So like, act breaks were originally designed to keep you there when a commercial starts. Now, hardly anybody watches a commercial, but that's why each scene would build to, usually it's like 3 acts, right? At the end of the first act, there's a exciting thing that happens that twists the story in another direction. And we would describe all those scenes and all those act breaks. Have a discussion with the network about that. And then we would do an outline. And that's like, now we go scene by, each one is labeled as into your kitchen. That's what happens in this scene. We would write out everything. And sometimes that includes a little bit of dialogue if it helps sell the story a little bit. And we would from reading that outline, you should have a very good idea of what that episode of TV is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And if that outline gets approved after some conversations with the network, then it goes to script. And then you're just taking, what's cool about having done all of that work before you've got to script is you can literally copy that paragraph in your Microsoft Word right into Final Draft and then just start to split it up. So like, and if there are some lines of dialogue, you've already got some dialogue and you have a shape to your script without even really starting yet. And it makes the actual script process like the reward, the easy part, because you've done all of the difficult figuring out of the plot twists and all that ahead of time. Now, that's how it typically works on the shows I've been on. That's what I've grown comfortable working with. There are a lot of feature writers who do not work that way at all. and they kind of have their own system. So some people, I know, like the Coen brothers, don't like to know. I believe they don't like to know how the movie ends when they start writing. They actually like start writing the screenplay and let the story sort of take them someplace. To me, that seems terrifying, and I probably would never finish the script. I need to know where I'm going, and that's just how. I guess that's a slightly more mechanical process that I'm drawn to, where I'm like, I know what this is. It's a little less scary to me than now that I see it in chunks and I can get going on the script. But for you, Derek, you should try to see like look into other writers and see what different writing processes it like. Do some research online and figure out what. There's some great podcasts that are about feature writers, and I can send an email with some recommendations for some podcasts and for some books that might help out with some of this stuff and make it a little bit less daunting getting started. But if your web method is to go with the book to script, that might be the best way for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions before we leave? We're close out. Anybody? No? Going once, going twice. Okay. Okay, I think that's all we have. Okay, I want to thank you so much on behalf of all of these I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and speak with us. It truly means a lot to talk to someone who's actually in the industry we're striving to be in or working towards, and at such a high level. Like, this is truly an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you guys ask me, and it's inspiring to me to talk to young people like yourselves that are actually doing it and working your butts off to try to be in this business. We need your voices. So keep plugging away and keep making mistakes and keep going forward and keep making movies. And please send me your movies when you finish them. I'd love to watch them.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's all we have. Thank you so much again.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, Sari.
Oh, shoot. I can't hear her.
You're still on mute,
You
Sarita.
on mute, Miss Cheatham.
Oh, you were saying how things happen. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to keep going. Literally today, I'm working on a movie here in Atlanta, and
Mhm.
right in the middle of getting started for this, I realized we lost our location that we were supposed to be
Oh,
at 6.
yeah.
So I'm
sorry.
I'm like muting my face out because I'm back here texting, "Don't go there."
Oh no. Yeah. So you're with a good teacher. You know that accidents happen every single day on these shoots. So
That's
just
okay.
expect them. Be ready for it, and don't lose your cool when it happens. Mhm.
Thank
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. It's nice
Thank
meeting all of
you.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, who's that?
It was good. It was great.
Well, I think I did better than last time. I kept on messing up last time.
You guys are so awesome.
That was really helpful, especially on the imagine part. It helps reassure me that how I think, or when I do something, that I'm doing it right, or where I can do it better.
I have a question.
Helpful to
Oh, I'm sorry.